Bam, here we go. I have kicked the tires and lit the fires. We got to get this cocktail show going, but we have to do one more sequence. And that would be Leslie removing the cat from her lap and the condom from her wine bottle. There goes the
There's the
cat
cat. Come
off
on.
the lap.
Oh, she's gone over by the dragon lamp.
Dragon
Hang out
lamp,
by
which you'll never
Velcro.
give away.
Eventually, but
I guess I
not
wouldn't
soon.
either. That is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And now he's made friends with the alligator head that Scott from Scott's Vintage Antiques sent me.
Only open
Okay,
on Sundays.
you
All
got
right.
it. And then
Here we go. Remove that condom.
okay,
Three,
good.
2, 1. Yeah, straight up
Oh,
and out.
yeehaw!
Cheers,
Okay.
everybody. I can't believe it's the last cocktail show in August
Oof.
2025. That's depressing.
It was
Mm,
yesterday. You were saying it's June 1st. We've got this great
yeah,
summer ahead of us. Yeah.
and it's gone. Well, I know it's not gone, but I go with meteorological summer, June, July, August. I like it. It's neater.
Yes.
And then on Monday, fall starts, but I'll cling to whatever weather I can. I'll have al fresco, hot soup outside eating. I don't care until it's below 50.
I went into a home goods store to get a new shower curtain, and the smell of pumpkin when you go in the
Oh
door,
God.
it just like hits you like a wall. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
it's unstoppable now. You got well, Halloween started 2 months ago. Christmas will start on Monday, and
You
listen,
can
every
start stocking up on the candy now because they
yeah,
do
because
have
right.
the miniatures, and these days the miniatures are living up to that name, man. They are teeny tiny little
Well,
nuggets.
here's the psychology. You buy it now, and it's sitting there, and then you break the bag open. You have one, and now the whole bag is gone. You got to keep buying it because it's two
Right.
months away from Halloween. Okay, every week I say, "Hey, got a good one for you today," and I try to deliver on that promise every cocktail show. But I really think you're going to enjoy my guest today. I saw Dan speak a few months ago and was blown away. Nature is in charge. He's going to bring the goods on that in just a few minutes. But first, Leslie, let's see who's here. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
All right, that's a good start. Do we have Kellyanne out of the chute? Ryan. There she is, Labor Day already. Next week, got to get the bread and milk from, well, see, where are my glasses?
Where are the
I,
cheaters? There you
I've
go.
got a different computer and the print is smaller. That's my excuse. Got to get the bread and milk. Slow down, world. My schnauzer and I aren't ready for any of this. None of us are,
No.
unless you really enjoy cold. I don't. And
I
Martin is
finally
always here.
remembered to take the gasoline out of my snow blower. So I used the siphon that Ryan gave me and got the gasoline out just in time to
Put it
put
back
some
in.
new stuff in. Yes, you got
Okay. Don't push that. Martin's always here from British Columbia. We love you, Martin. And Jim, celebrating my birthday with you. Happy
it.
birthday. Sunny shores of U.S. Steel in Garry, Indiana. I have some ideas for Garry, or had some ideas over the years. The mayor that I talked to at the time laughed at me. Pyramids, because it's in the flight path of Midway Airport into Chicago, and people see those pyramids. They're going to go, "Where's that?" Garry, Indiana. Let's go see the pyramids. How's that Michael Jackson uh, childhood
Museum.
home working out?
Yeah, that I is it even open as a museum these days? I don't know. I'll go ahead
I
and
don't
see
even
what I can
remember
find
if
out.
they did make it into a museum. It was talked about. And here, let me
It's
give
going
you
to be
this
right
one.
up there with Pope Leo's
How many people
childhood
are
home
talking about
museum.
the Pope's house in Dalton, Illinois? That's already faded. Okay. Who else we got, Ryan? Luke, happy Friday, Labor Day weekend. Yeah. All right. And Mark, don't forget to buy your Powerball ticket. That's tomorrow, Luke. It's tomorrow night. Tonight's mega. And I haven't bought a mega since they raised the price 150%, $1 billion. Maybe we can refurbish Jerry Lewis's tote board from the Labor Day telethon. New tote. Oh,
You
yeah, if
know,
you
it's
remember
only going to
him.
be a half a million after, or a half a billion after taxes.
Uh-oh, I can't live on that.
Who can?
You know how long it takes Oprah to make $500 million?
Oh,
About
good
15 months.
day. Yeah, I would too.
John, hello from Port Angeles, Washington, saluting the whole GarrForce Live Cocktail Hour group. So where does Labor Day rank compared to the other holiday weekends? Just curious. It's a depressing one because everything starting Tuesday, no matter what the weather, people start wearing sweaters. The lifeguards are gone at all the beaches and swimming pools. Pools start closing. It doesn't matter if it's 90 degrees all through September. Everything's shut down. Everything shifts. All right. George, he's my tech guy and one of my best friends, if not, well, I don't want to get anybody upset. He's one of my best friends. Buddy Bear, building another car wash. Buddy Bear, proud sponsor of the GarrForce in Chicago. If your car needs the goo off, go to Buddy Bear. George, tell people if you want to in the queue where that new location is going to be. Jim, happy Jimmy Buffett Day. Is this his birthday?
I guess so. Hang on.
Why is it Jimmy Buffett Day? Greg, back home in
Cheeseburger Paradise.
I'm dead free since 1973. All right. Brian from our house bands. Oh, yes. And Bonjournied. I thought Bartman was going to be on the show. So glad it's Batman instead. All right. Bartman, one of the ugliest chapters in the Chicago Cubs baseball history. If you remember that incident where the poor guy caught a foul ball and they almost killed him. Literally.
Yeah. He had to be escorted out.
Almost killed the guy.
Yeah. By the way, Jimmy Buffett was born on Christmas, but he died on September 1st. So are we celebrating his death days?
I guess. I guess.
That seems kind of cruel.
And speaking of the Oh Yes Band, our house band, they're playing tonight, Mount Prospect, Illinois at the Red Barn. If you're in that area, go get entertained to the bejesus belt, 6 p.m. start. All right. And Charles from WRLR in Gurnee, Illinois, checking in. Take your schnauzer to a parade. Put earplugs in the schnauzer.
Oh.
Because these parades are loud. Your schnauzer doesn't like brass. Jerry, waiting for the show, looking forward to it because Jerry is the father of my guest tonight. This is how I met Dan. Jerry is Dan's father. Jerry's a great guy. And thank you, Jerry, for setting this up because I'm really looking forward to this. I haven't said much about it, have I, over the last week or two?
No, you don't seem excited at all.
No, wait a minute, Leslie. You saw Dan give a little presentation a few minutes ago getting ready, and tell me I oversold this.
Oh, no. You guys stick around.
Yeah, this is going to be good. You're going to be talking about this for a while because nature is in charge. All right. Kevin, Northwest Indiana. Hello. And David, Aurora, Illinois. Happy Labor Day. It was just Memorial Day 2 weeks ago. Dale, Wheatfield, Indiana. Hello, Dale. And Cindy, all present and accounted for in Wheeling, Illinois. Hello, Cindy. Good to see you. Catherine, hello. Got 2 drinks up there. Good. Straight Talk Commerce. That's my friend Wayne in Southern California. Let's go, GarrForce. Wayne, I owe you a call. I know you left me a message. I will get back to you. I promise. And Janine, hello. Gary, Leslie, Ryan from the beautiful south suburbs of Chicago, my old stomping grounds. And Chris from Gilbert, AZ. Wonder what the temp is there. It's cooled off in the upper part of the country. It was hot and then it just whoop. Let's boogie.
But it's a dry heat, of course. And they have scorpions.
Tia, clink. Oh. All right. John from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Good to see you, John. And a couple more. Marianne from Lake, Wisconsin. And Patty. Hello, Patty. Good to see you. All right. Leslie, let's bring on the man. Dan Riskin did his PhD in bats. Hello, Dan.
Hey, guys.
And as I mentioned, I saw him speak recently, and he just lit up the screen with all the different things he knows and lit up my little brain. And Dan, let me just ask you this. In the Venn diagram of our ecosystem, how important are bats?
Oh, they're everything. I mean, my Venn diagram. So I'm biased. I'm not the best person to answer that question because I'm going to give you an inflated answer. To normal people, they're only critically essential, but for me, they're like everything. They are magical creatures, basically. I mean, they eat all these mosquitoes, they eat all these insects, and so you can think of them from pest control perspective, and you can think about how crops are protected by these bats that fly in and eat all the moths that would have their caterpillars eat all our food instead of us. And they have a huge economic benefit of over $1 billion a year in the US. But on top of that, if you look globally, they are doing other jobs too. Down in Arizona, where your friend is, or where our viewer is, they are pollinating cacti. They are the reason that those big, beautiful cacti, like you know from the Snoopy cartoons, the only reason they exist is because bats pollinate them. There are places in the tropics where they're dispersing fruit. There are bats that are doing all kinds of jobs. And if you make a list of all the different kinds of mammals in the world, all the furry animals from elephants to giraffes to whales, all of them, about 20% of that list is just different kinds of bats. There are about 1,500 different species. And so they're a huge component of diversity and a really special piece of the world. And once you just learn a little bit about them, you get addicted.
Now, let me see if I have this right. Bats are the only mammal that can sustain flight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually it brings up a really neat question because gliding, like you know, like a flying squirrel glides, it can jump out of a tree and it can go down like a paper airplane, but it won't land higher up than it took off. It doesn't do powered flight, it just goes down at an angle. And that's evolved in flying squirrels, but it's also evolved in these marsupials called sugar gliders and a whole bunch of other groups. There are these things called flying lemurs. And then there are all these extinct kinds of mammals that also developed gliding. And gliding has evolved in mammals, I think it's 17 times, but only once did those gliding creatures figure out to flap their wings and start flying. And it's a bit of a mystery why so many groups of mammals got as far as working like a paper airplane and gliding, but never took that next step. Because once the bats figured it out, they took over the world. It was 50 million years ago. They've been successful. They're found on, you know, almost everywhere on Earth except Antarctica and a few islands. And so it's this thing that other creatures got very close to evolving, but never quite did. And it's really neat why.
Since I was a kid, and I would imagine most of the people watching, bats were vilified in that they will get in your hair. If you encounter a bat, it's going to get in your hair. Is that urban legend?
Yeah, it's a myth. I mean, bats sometimes make mistakes and crash into you. I was in a mine just in July in Mexico, and I had a whole bunch of bats fly into me because they were used to flying down that hallway with nothing in the way. And when I showed up there, they bumped into me. They were surprised to find me there. So they make mistakes sometimes, but they don't go for your hair. That's just not a thing. I mean, I've talked to like one person ever who says that they actually had a bat in their hair. It's always somebody's aunt that it happened to and they heard about it. So it may happen from time to time, but it's just not a thing that bats are looking to do.
Are they all rabid?
No, rabies is a really rare disease, but it's a really dangerous disease. And so you have to be really careful every time you interact with a bat. You have to treat it as though this might be the one, even though it's probably not. And the thing is that if you did a survey of all the bats around your house tonight, flying around eating mosquitoes, maybe less than 1%, maybe 1% might have rabies. It's a pretty rare disease. But if you do a survey of all the bats that a kid walks home with in their hand that they found on the way home from school, that's a different percentage because there's a bias. When a bat is sick, it acts weird. It ends up on the ground. It ends up easy to catch. And so if you look at all the bats that people catch or bring in for testing, the percentages are a lot higher, but they're artificially inflated because those are bats that were sick to start with. And the thing about rabies is if you get it and you don't get treatment before the symptoms show up, you're basically 100% going to die. It's there's a very extreme medical intervention that can be done that puts you in a coma for a long time. But basically, it's bad. If you come into contact with a bat and it scratches you or bites you, or even if you just touch it, go get the rabies shot. It's like 100% effective and you'll be fine, but you can't wait for symptoms. So don't handle bats. They're wild animals. But if you do come into contact with a bat, treat it as though it were rabid, even though it probably wasn't.
Overall, are bats aggressive towards humans or only if you confront them?
Bats can sometimes not like it when I grab them So I set up nets and I catch bats, and when I'm holding them, sometimes they fight back. But bats don't come down out of the sky to attack you. That's just not a thing they do. Even the bats that have rabies don't do that. Bats that have rabies tend to become sort of shy and feeling sick and sort of lying in the middle of the sidewalk. They don't come after you. So no, you don't have to worry about bats attacking you.
The conversation around COVID was that it came out of China because the Chinese eat bats, and then they would show these markets, and there were these bats in these markets that you could buy. Is there any credence to that from your standpoint?
Yeah, people eat bats in a lot of different parts of the world, which I don't like because it's a conservation problem. Bats are not, I mean, bats reproduce really slowly. They're different from mice. Mice, if you put two mice in a room for 15 minutes, you've got like a million mice. Like they reproduce so fast, it's ridiculous. Bats, if you leave two mice in a room for a year, you'll have three bats. They have one pup a year, and they take care of that pup, and they wait a long time before they reproduce again. And so it takes, one baby a year for each female. It's really slow to reproduce. And so people that are eating these bats, which happens in places like the Philippines, China, and a few other countries, parts of Africa, it's not sustainable. And so we're working on trying to sort of change people's views in those parts of the world. But in terms of COVID, we don't exactly know how it got from the bats to the people, but it's clear from the genetic signature of the RNA in the COVID virus that it came from a family of viruses that occur in bats. And so we're confident that if you follow that lineage back, I think it's a year and a half or maybe it's 10 years, I can't remember the number, it's definitely a bat virus. So somehow that thing got from bats to people. But in terms of like what the mechanics of that were, whether it was the market, whether it was a lab leak, whether it was some kind of a mistake that happened in a Chinese laboratory, we just don't know. And so I have my guess about what really happened, but it's just a guess. I don't have any scientific data. So in a way, the big take-home point from all of that, though, is that for decades, bat scientists who work on bat diseases, and there's a whole branch of bat research that's focused on that for human health reasons. People that have been looking at diseases have been saying, "Hey, there's a threat that these coronaviruses could jump to humans, just like SARS did back in 2001. So we have to be careful." And one of the things that happens when bats are stressed and when they don't have enough habitat and when they come into contact with people a lot is you increase the risk of that disease jumping. And so even though COVID seemed like the fault of bats and a good reason to destroy bats or destroy their habitat and get rid of them, COVID was actually the result of not protecting bats well enough. The fact that they were stressed, the fact that they were coming into contact with people, and that's how the disease jumped. And so in a lot of ways, that pandemic was actually an ecological disaster.
And going back to these cultures that eat bats, is it because they don't have other things to eat in the food chain? It's accessible. What's their excuse for that?
Yeah, I mean, in some places, there's just a sort of a culture of eating anything you can get your hands on. But in places like the Philippines, the bats are some of the biggest mammals. So the bats that live in the Philippines that people eat, they have like a 6-foot wingspan. They're huge. They're called flying foxes. They weigh only about 3 pounds. So like the weight of a big squirrel, but their wings are huge. And so the wingspan is like my wingspan. It's like 5.5 feet. And so they're some of the biggest animals there. And it used to be that hunting one of these bats was almost impossible. They're up in the trees, you have to climb the tree and then it flies away. Like, how do you ever get one? And then guns were brought in and you could shoot one very easily. And so it used to be that bats were sort of sustainably harvested. They would be very rare and you would use them for a really special meal like a wedding. But now with the access to guns, it's really easy to have one on a Friday just because you feel like it. And so the populations of these flying foxes have been going down and a lot of people are working really hard to try to bring them back.
All right, let's start showing some vid, and let's start with the starling video that you showed us right before we went on. This is pretty interesting to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I like this video because it sort of opens Pandora's box in terms of just realizing that we have so much to learn from nature. So these are birds. Every dot you see on this screen is an individual starling, which is a kind of bird. This was shot in the Netherlands, and this is called a murmuration. And you can see that they're doing this dance, and the dance is so beautiful. It looks like someone orchestrated it, but no one did. And there's no leader among the birds telling them what to do. Each bird is following a very simple set of rules about following the birds that are around it. And this dance is what emerges. And look at that. Like, it's just breathtaking to see.
And they're doing that for a reason, right, Dan?
Well, they do it in the evening, and for a long time, people were like, "Well, why are they doing this?" And we don't fully understand. Like, it must cost a lot of energy to do this. Maybe they enjoy it. Maybe they meet other birds this way. They'll fly around for a while and then land together. But one of the benefits of being in a murmuration like this is that if a raptor comes in, like let's say a peregrine falcon comes in and says, "I'm going to pick one of you off," if one of the birds sees that raptor coming and they do an evasive maneuver, because all the birds in its neighborhood are following each other, all the birds around will also do the evasive maneuver. If one bird suddenly jogs left, everybody around them jogs left. And so as a result, one bird might see the falcon, but 100 birds will dodge it. And so you have a whole bunch. Here's a nice spot right here where you see the birds just zip apart, not because there's a falcon, but because they got spooked. But you can imagine that there are a whole bunch of birds in that scenario that are seeing no falcon. They have no idea there's a falcon out there, but all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I guess we're turning," and they end up dodging the falcon. And so in a way, there's information stored in the network that they themselves don't know. And so when you're part of a group, the group can be greater than the sum of its parts in this way, because you don't have to know things with your brain. If the group knows it, you can still benefit from that information. It's a little bit like how we all use Wikipedia. We've got people that have very specialized knowledge updating Wikipedia, and we all benefit from being able to use that knowledge whenever we need it, even though we don't know those things in our own brains.
You want to talk about cockroaches right now?
Yeah, let's get into it. So I thought it would be fun to sort of just get inspired by the way nature has lessons for us about how groups work well, and specifically like how leadership, what lessons we can learn about leadership from nature. And so I just put together a couple of slides for you just to sort of bring this home. And I thought of sort of these 3 lessons from Mother Nature about leadership that I think are really inspiring. And this is the fun of being a biologist, is you get to sort of, just learn these things. And the first lesson is this idea that a group can be smarter than its individual members. So a group, when it's well built, can be greater than the sum of its parts. And as amazing as those starlings are, my favorite group of organisms to talk about with respect to this is just what you teased there. It's the cockroaches. And so let me tell you a story about this study on cockroaches, and I'll get out of the way so you can see the cockroaches. So cockroaches, believe it or not, are able to do math. An individual cockroach cannot do math, but a group of cockroaches can do math. A group of cockroaches is greater than the sum of its parts. And here's how the experiment works. Imagine you have a table and you're shining a light down, and you have 3 petri dishes on the table. They're each lifted up a little bit. So the cockroaches, if they want, can go under the petri dishes, or they can go between the petri dishes. But these petri dishes are set up as these separate spaces, and they're covered with tinfoil. So the light is hitting the table, and the cockroach can hide. And if you do this, the cockroach will hide under a petri dish every time. They don't like being out in the light. They instinctively know that being in the light is bad. And if you have one cockroach, it'll hide under a random petri dish. So in this case, it's hiding under the middle one. If I have 2 cockroaches, they will hide under a random petri dish, but they'll always hide together. And the reason they do this is because for cockroaches, if you're with your buddy and a predator finds you and you both bolt at the same time, the predator is less likely to catch you, because there's going to be a moment where they're like, "Ah, ah," and they're not going to quite catch you. Whereas if you're by yourself, you're more likely to get picked off. So for cockroaches, it's always better to be with another cockroach than it is to be by yourself. Okay, so if there's 2, they go together. If there's 5 cockroaches, they'll all hide together. But what if there's a limit on how many cockroaches you can fit under a petri dish? Let's say you can fit 15 cockroaches under a petri dish. If I have 15, they'll all hide under the same petri dish. And sometimes they come out and walk around and check out other places, but they'll always go back to where the other ones are. But it'll be a random one, but all 15 will always hide together. Where it gets interesting is when I add a 16th cockroach, because in the study, when they added a 16th cockroach, instead of having one cockroach by itself and the other 15 together, the cockroaches split in half. The cockroaches somehow knew how many hiding spots there were, knew how many hiding spots they needed, and then knew how many cockroaches there were in the population, and split accordingly, which is crazy. For people to do this, you would need everybody to have a walkie-talkie, everybody talking to each other and saying, okay, if we get to this number, then you're an A and you're a B and you have to go to this place. Like, you'd have to plan it out, but the cockroaches just do it automatically. Let's say I have 30 cockroaches. I can fit them under 2 petri dishes. There will be none under that 3rd petri dish. But if I have 31 cockroaches and I can't fit them between the 2, all of a sudden they split into 3. So in this case, they know exactly how many hiding spots there are. So like the whole thing just seems like ridiculous. It just seems like the cockroaches are doing crazy math and they're brilliant, mathematicians. But the truth is, the cockroaches are just following a really simple set of rules. The first rule is I hate being alone. So if I go under a dish and there's nobody there, I'm more likely to leave and go find a new dish. And if I find a dish and there are people there, I'll stay there. And then the second rule is I hate the light. So I hate being alone, but I hate the light even more. And just by following these 2 simple rules, you get this emergent property that the cockroaches as a group are able to do math. And I think this sort of speaks to the first lesson from Mother Nature, that we can be greater than the sum of our parts. If you build your team or your organization in a way that people are serving their interests in a way that actually has these emergent properties, you can actually end up with a smarter group than the smartest of the people on your team.
Wow. And you want to talk about, you want to go to termites now? What's your next bug of choice?
Yeah, the next one's ants. Yeah,
Ants?
termites. Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. I misspoke. It's exactly what you said. So the second lesson from nature, not from cockroaches, but from termites, is that members of a group can't contribute to your overall team objective if their personal needs aren't met. And the example that I love for this is termites. So if you look at these termites, this is a video I shot when I was in Borneo leading a wildlife tour. And I was like, whoa, look at how pretty that pattern is. But I can zoom in on one of the branches here. Let's zoom in. There we go. There we go. You can see how many cockroaches there are moving side by side.
Termites.
Now, if you compare,
those are termites.
Get
your bugs right, Dan.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I'll go back to school. Thank you for that. The termites are moving beautifully up this log. And if you try to imagine a road with that density of cars, you know full well from experience that it would not work. You know that there would be a traffic jam. So why is it that termites are able to move so smoothly despite the population density, whereas humans can't do that? Like, why are they smarter than us? And the answer to that comes from a really neat study that was done in Japan. This is a classic, and it's a bit of a fuzzy video because it's such an old video. It's from when it came out. It's amazing. What they told these people is just drive your car in a circle and go to constant speed. Don't speed up, don't slow down, just go to constant speed. That was the instruction given to these people. And immediately you could see what happens is that if a car comes up against the car in front of it, it hits the brakes because it doesn't want to rear end it. And when they hit the brakes, the car behind them has to slow down. And then the car behind them has to slow down. And you get this shock wave. And you can see on the right side that they're basically stopped, even though the objective that they were given was to keep going no matter what. And this is the point, is that when you say to a person, I want you to go to constant speed, they say, yes, I'll go to constant speed, subject to the condition that I'm not going to have my insurance rates go up. I'm not going to rear end another car just to go. I'll go to constant speed, but I'm not going to rear end somebody. And so there's actually an objective that trumps what you're asking them to do. And because of that, they're not actually doing what you ask them to do. The beauty of the cockroaches is they smash into each other all the time and they don't care. Because when you're a cockroach and you bump into another cockroach, it doesn't hurt.
That's a
your
termite.
Insurance premiums don't go up.
That's a termite, Dan.
Oh, Lord,
You're mixing your termites and cockroaches.
You're right. Thank you, Gary. Oh, my goodness. So when you're a termite or a cockroach, cockroaches can bump into each other too, but let's stick with the termites. The termites bump into each other. It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt if you're a termite. And so they are not constrained the same way. Now, humans can move smoothly like termites do if the conditions are correct. And this is like one of my favorite sort of aerial views in the world is this place in Japan. It's in Tokyo called Shibuya. And they call this the Shibuya Shuffle. 3,000 people can cross the street here at once. And the reason it works is because the rules are really simple and there's nothing getting in the way. You say to people, point in the direction you want to go. If the light's green, go. If the light's red, do not go. People can do that. They don't have any other rule that they're worried about. They're not worried about bumping into each other. If they do bump, it's not going to hurt that much. They pass each other. It all works just beautifully because the rules align with what they want. They want to go in that direction. They're pointing in that direction because that serves their selfish interests. It all works. But if you put humans in a different situation where you give them an arbitrary set of rules that don't align with what their personal needs are, you get chaos. And the best example I can think of this is when you try to board a plane. Because the airline says, okay, we want to put you in these groups, and you're in group 7, and we don't want you to step up to the gate until we call group 7, and they're doing group 5, and you can see a lot of people have gotten on that plane, and you've got this carry-on, and you're a little bit worried about whether you're going to be able to bring the carry-on on the plane with you, because they might check it, and then you might never see your bag again, or you might have to wait a long time at the carousel to get your bag back. And so the smartest thing to do from a selfish perspective is to ignore what the group needs and to go stand next to the gate, even though you're group 7, so that when they do call group 7, you can be the first person in group 7 who gets on the plane. That just makes sense. And so the airline gets frustrated because they're like, well, you're not supposed to be here. You're group 7. Please go wait in the lounge. And you're like, well, okay, but. And so there's this whole tension and people getting mad at each other, but really it's just because the rules aren't set up well. And so this is the second lesson in leadership that you can get from Mother Nature, is that the members of your group are not going to contribute to your vision for what the group needs to do if it conflicts with what they need as individuals. You have to make sure that you take care of them as individuals first. And another analogous sort of example of this is, imagine you work for a company where they say, hey, tell us what you think this company needs to improve on. And then a person who says, I think the company does a bad job of this, is sticking their neck out and might be perceived to have a bad attitude about the company, or might not have the spirit, or might not be on board with the new vision. So you have to make sure that if you expect your team members to speak honestly, that they are protected from their they don't want to get fired. They don't really care as much about how the company does as they do about their own personal income. And so you have to make sure you've set it up so that when they do something that helps the group, it doesn't conflict with what they're worried about as an individual. They feel like they need to culturally toe the line in order to make sure they don't get fired. They're not going to tell you the honest truth about what they think is wrong with the company. So that's the second great lesson from nature, from termites that I call cockroaches. Thank you for correcting me every time. It's so embarrassing. They should take away my PhD.
What about the ants now? Let's talk about the ants.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best not to call them uncles. Now, ants are, like, when it comes to groups of animals, they are absolutely the most amazing thing, right? So here's a little video I shot in Panama of some leafcutter ants. The things that they can accomplish are just amazing, and they work so well as a group. And there's this great study that came out just this last year that compares the performance of groups of ants to groups of people on difficult tasks, and the ants come out ahead, which is really exciting. So I want to show you that. Let's see. So the puzzle that they gave them is something called the piano mover's problem. And you can imagine if you're hired to move a piano, you bring it in the front door, you got to get it through the living room, there's a couch, you got to move it around, you get it out of the way. The piano mover's problem is the idea that you have this physical object that you have to reorient to move it through a space. And the thing is, when they do this in experiments, they don't actually use a piano, they use a red shape. Okay, let me get out of the way here so you can see what I'm talking about. So imagine these blue walls don't move, and imagine the red shape, that T, can move, and your job is to slide it from the left side of the figure to the right side. How do you move this thing through those slits so that it moves from one side to the other? This is a geometric problem, and what's great about it is you can give that challenge to humans, and you can give the challenge to ants. All you have to do is scale it down, make a T-shaped object, cover it with the smell of food, and then put the ant's nest on the right side, and the ants will instinctively try to take it home to their nest. And so here's a video of exactly that. Here are some ants. Those little dots are real ants moving a real object, and they're trying to get it through the slits. And what's amazing is, there's no leader here. These are just ants. And so they try this way a little bit, but it turns out to solve this problem, you have to put it in the other end first. And the ants try it. I don't believe it. But the ants try it the other way. Then you have to the only way to solve this puzzle is to take the big end, put it in first, then you got to move the big end either to the top or the bottom, like that, and then pull it out by the small end. And the ants solve the puzzle, which is absolutely amazing. And what's great is you can give a human exactly the same challenge. So here's a human trying to move this object, and they figure out they have to put the big end in, and then they try with the big end first to come out the end, but then they realize it's the small end first. And they get it through. And so, like a group of ants can do it. A human can do it. How about an individual ant? Let's see if they can do it. So I'll put that video on. This is a miniature. This is a very small one. It's been made small enough that the ant can move it itself.
How long?
And they have hundreds of hours.
How long did it take for this ant to accomplish that?
Infinity. No ant could do it. So they gave this opportunity. Actually, it's different ants coming in and giving it a shot. But when they're working alone, no ant can solve this problem, which is really striking. And it goes back to what I did say about cockroaches when they were cockroaches and not termites. What I said about cockroaches is sometimes the group is better than the individuals. The group is smarter than the individuals. And that's exactly what's happening for these ants. They can't do it as individuals. Their brains don't have this solution in mind. It's only as an emergent property of the ants that they're able to solve it. So they have hundreds of hours of ants just not being able to do it, which I'm showing you here. And so you have this relationship where the smarter, the more individuals in your group, the smarter the group is. Now that's true for ants. Is it true for people? We showed you that a person can do this. What if you get a group of people? So here's a bunch of people holding on to a giant version of this thing, and they're not allowed to talk. They all have to wear masks, like COVID masks, to cover their mouths so they don't mouth words to each other. They're all wearing sunglasses. They're not allowed to speak or gesture, and they just have to all work together to try to get this thing done. And here's what happens. They try it the easy way. It doesn't work. They try it again. Then they realize they need to turn it around. They do. Then they try to get that big end through, which is what humans do. Then they stick that up there. Then they try to pull it in by the big end again. When we know that's not going to work, they have to put that back up there, take it up by the small end. There we go. Boom. The humans do it. But what's really neat is if you look at the distance of the path that was followed by the humans, it's actually longer than the distance traveled by the ants. The ants had a more efficient solution to solving it than the group of people.
So
and the reason for that.
So the takeaway, Dan, is that you should hire ants to move your piano. Is that the takeaway?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you have a big enough ant problem and they're moving your piano, I guess yes, that I guess that's the silver lining on what's happening to your house right there. No, what's neat is there's an inherent conflict that happens for the ants that doesn't happen, or that happens for the ants but doesn't happen for the people. So what they found is they have these force measurers on the T that the people were holding on to. And what they find is in the instant that the people start, when they haven't communicated and they start moving, people move in slightly different directions. But as soon as that T starts moving, everybody cooperates. Humans instinctively go with the flow. So as soon as it's moving in a direction, it's almost like if you've ever done a Ouija board, but you can tell it's going somewhere, you just go along with it. You're not going to fight the crowd and try to push it in a different direction. You're just one of a bunch of people. And so somebody must be in charge. Somebody must know what they're doing, and so you go with the flow. Ants don't do that. Ants fight the whole time. So when an ant grabs onto the T, for the first 10 seconds or so, it just doesn't care what anybody else is doing. It pulls it in the direction it thinks it needs to go. And so as a result, the T is constantly moving and doing this swirly dance. And that helps it find interesting solutions. And it's that weird randomness to the dance that actually helps it solve the problem more quickly. And so the take home is that if you have conflict on your team, that actually helps you when you're trying to solve a complex problem. And if everybody's just cooperating and agreeing with each other, that might work for a very simple solution, like when you just have to move the piano through an empty room, but it won't help you with a complex solution. When everybody's just cooperating, you're missing out on all the benefits of that conflict. And so that's the third lesson. So the three lessons from nature that I wanted to share with you are that a group can be smarter than the individuals in that group. We saw that for the birds, and we also saw it for the termites, and we ultimately saw it for the ants. Members of a group can't contribute if their personal needs aren't met. That's true of nature's greatest groups, and it's going to be true for human groups too. And for complex problems, conflict on a team can help. And so it's a bit metaphorical when you're talking about the piano mover problem, but you have to believe that if everybody in the C-suite is looking at the problem the same way, and people who have a different idea are scared to speak up, you're missing out on the potential for some different solutions. And so that conflict is actually helpful.
Dan, I think the fourth point in that leadership program there is humans are knuckle draggers. We're just taking up space here. We don't know what the hell we're doing, while everything else in nature seems to have figured it out. And here we are, really, the capacity we have to think and do things. And you look at cockroaches and they figure it out real easily. And we go through all these steps and we have all this conflict, and it's just sad.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right in a sense, but I think that does humans a little bit of a disservice. I think the point is that there are human groups that can be extremely effective. And if you look in nature, I mean, cockroaches die a lot. Like they do well, they thrive in a dirty kitchen, but when you clean the kitchen, the cockroaches all die, right? I mean, so they don't always do well in every circumstance, and so you have to sort of look at like, well, what's different here? And I think for me, I think that what's happening right now that really characterizes this moment in the 21st century is, AI and socio-political changes, all kinds of, the world is changing in a really fast way. And people have been saying for decades that the big changes are coming. And I feel like a lot of those big changes are here. And people are talking about the singularity and talking about, artificial intelligence going that next step to being sort of like an individual that you can interact with that's smarter than us. It's not there yet, but it probably will be in the next little bit. And how do you, as an organism, cope with change on that scale? And the truth is that there are all these creatures that do very well when all the rules change, when all these creatures that have great strategies that kick into gear when change happens. And so humans can learn from that. And I look at it as sort of this inspiring piece, and I don't have that sort of really negative view of human culture. I think humans have done great things. I have a great affection for art and music, which have no parallels that I know of in the biological world, except for as sort of emergent things that I find beautiful, but whether the animals do or not, I don't know. So there's a lot of great stuff about humans. I just think there's a lot of opportunity for us to be even better, and I think nature sort of shows us how to do that.
All right, and throwing props back to cockroaches, your point about kitchens, there are enough dirty kitchens to keep them alive because people, some, don't know how to clean their kitchen.
There it is. Yeah.
Really, it's that dance. The cockroach knows. I got a lot of dirty kitchens before I die.
Yeah. I mean, but the other thing is, like, most people, when they see a cockroach, myself included, like, I'm not happy if I'm in a hotel and I see a cockroach run across the counter. I don't like that one bit. Or if I see a rat, in my backyard, I don't like that. But I really respect them. We were talking about scorpions. That came up in your preamble when you and Leslie were going back and forth talking about how Arizona has scorpions. Scorpions are awesome. Like, they glow. If you shine an ultraviolet light on a scorpion, it glows yellow. There's all these secrets that they have. Their venoms are just amazing. In fact, I believe that scorpion venom is the most expensive liquid on Earth because it's used for some very specialized research, and it's just so hard to milk a scorpion. They produce like none. And so when you look at the cost of what it costs per milligram of scorpion venom, I think it's one of the most, as far as the paper I looked at recently, it's the most valuable liquid on Earth. So, they've got to be worth checking out.
Dan, isn't that what your bumper sticker says? It's so hard to milk a scorpion. Is that your bumper sticker,
yes.
Brother? Yeah.
That is actually that's the tattoo I have across my lower back also. And it matches my bumper. Yeah.
How long does the average bat live? What's their lifespan?
Oh yeah, let's talk about bats again. I brought a little video that I wanted to show of just how cute they are. So let me pull that up. There it is. So this is a bat that I caught when I was on that trip to see the termites, but it's called a pipistrelle. So I led this wildlife tour. We took a bunch of people. We went and looked at orangutans and elephants and all this other stuff. But I was like, let's just go see some bats. Trust me, you're going to like this. And so we caught this bat, and this is me showing it to them. And I just want to show you how pretty that wing is. Oh, look at how cute you are. I mean, they're just adorable. And so you can see if I freeze it here, you can see let's see, how can I do this? If you look right there, if you look over that way, you can see the elbow, and then closer to me right there, you can see the wrist. And then at the wrist, there's a thumb that sticks up. So it's sort of like this with a thumb sticking up at the wrist. And then it's got 4 fingers. The leading edge of the wing is 1 finger, and then there's another finger that you can see clearly behind it, and then the 4th and 5th digits behind that. And so a bat has the same bones you do, and they're just like these magical creatures that are just, it's amazing to me that a mammal with the same basic bones we have but longer can do this thing of flying, and some of them echolocate. And the oldest bats live into their 40s. I told you they reproduce slowly, but some bats can actually live to be over 40 years old, which is just crazy.
Dan, do you have that vid of the bat on the treadmill?
Oh yeah, sure. So when I was doing my research, thank you for this. You're so kind. So the thing that I am best known for is my work on vampire bats. Vampire bats are awesome. They're a real thing. There are 1,500 different kinds of bats in the world. Only 3 of them are vampire bats. And the vampire bats, there are 3 species. They live in Central and South America, and they really do feed on blood. And this picture next to me is the common vampire bat. That's the one that I studied for my PhD. And they crawl on the ground. Most bats don't crawl on the ground, but these ones do. And the reason they crawl on the ground is because it's part of how they get their food. So they only drink blood. They don't eat fruit. They don't eat insects. The vampire bats are completely obligate sanguivores. They have to drink blood every time. And so what this vampire bat will do is it'll land on the ground next to a sleeping cow. It'll walk up to the cow. It'll put its face up against the cow's skin, and then it has temperature sensors inside its nose. You can see that funny scrunched up nose that it has there. It has temperature sensors in there that can find where blood comes close to the skin. And they're not looking for like the jugular vein or some big blood vessel. They're looking for a place where there's capillaries that are close to the skin. And then when they find it and it's nice and warm, they lick the area to clean it off. They shave the area with their super sharp teeth to get the fur out of the way. Then they make a small slash, like a golf divot, with their front incisors. So they have super sharp triangular incisors. They do like a swiping move, and that just removes about a half a millimeter wide, half a millimeter deep, not very big at all. And then they just put their tongue up against that thing and start licking. And they lick the blood and they drink and they pee. And because their saliva has an anticoagulant in it, it just keeps dripping blood. And so they sit there for like 20 to 40 minutes drinking blood out of this cow. And it's just an amazing life history. And it's so unusual. But like I said, these things land on the ground and walk up to the cow. And so for my PhD, I was curious about the biomechanics of how they walk. I wanted to compare how they walk to how normal mammals walk on the ground. And so I made high-speed videos of bats on the ground. So this is a video of a normal bat, not a vampire bat, but this is called a mustache bat, Pteronodus parnellii, and it's just walking from A to B, and you can just see it's bad at it. That's all I wanted you to see from this video. Is this bat walks, but it shuffles. It's not good. Compare that to a vampire bat, which I will show you now. Vampires are like ninjas. They're rad. And so what I did for my PhD is I brought a treadmill down to Trinidad and caught some vampire bats and put vampire bats on a treadmill. And if you Google vampire bats on a treadmill, you will find my PhD work because it's all on YouTube. But this is a bat just walking forwards and using a lateral sequence walking gait. And I was excited when I saw this because it's what you expect. It's walking like a lizard. It's walking like a mouse. It's walking like a horse. It moves the front right leg with the back left leg. And it moves the front left leg with the back right leg. And that's kind of what you expect. But when we sped the treadmill up, we got the surprise of our lives. It was me and my PhD advisor and our undergrad assistant. And the 3 of us saw this amazing feat where the vampire bats switched from their walking gait to a running gait. And no one had ever seen this before. And so these bats are basically doing running push-ups. All this musculature associated with the wings that they normally use for flying propels them in this hopping gait that lets them chase after an animal that wakes up in the middle of a feeding and tries to run away. They can just chase after it in the dark and then stop when the other animal stops and continue feeding, which is just this crazy, crazy piece of it. And that was what I did for my PhD. That got a bunch of press. And then through that, I met people in TV. And then thanks to that, I was, I got to do I hosted shows on the Discovery Channel and on History Channel, and I was a guest on Craig Ferguson's show. I was a guest on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and I've been working in television and science communication ever since. And now, sort of my big thing that I do now. Oh yeah, wait, I got to prove it. So here's me with Jay Leno. There you go. See, and that's Cameron Diaz next to me.
Yeah, let's talk about the bats. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah, some bats, eh? I was there I was there when I was host of a show called Monsters Inside Me, which is about parasites. So actually he introduced me as, please welcome the parasite guy. And like that's in my mind is always like what I remember Jay Leno say. Like being called the parasite guy by Jay Leno is like just one of those moments where you're like, I'm gonna just soak this in for a second. Cool.
Hey, does that vampire bat kill the cow after it's done?
No, it only takes about a tablespoon of blood. So it's like a bad horsefly for the cow. They can spread disease, but the cow is usually totally fine. Here's me with Craig Ferguson, which I did that show, I think 8 times. It was great. And then, from there, I've done a bunch of other shows. So I hosted Daily Planet on Discovery Channel. I know you have a viewer from BC, so they'll know that show. And then people in the US will know me from Monsters Inside Me, Mysteries from Above, Secrets in the Ice, I'm in a whole bunch of different shows. So
And I'm sure
that's
the next presentation you do, wherever that is, my little GarrForce slide will be in that menagerie.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say about that is, if people enjoy this stuff, I do have a weekly free newsletter which people can sign up for. It's called the Bat Signal. So if you just Google my name, or if you go to followthebatsignal.com, or you just look for the Bat Signal Dan or whatever, or you can click on that QR code or link, take a picture of it with your phone. That's a great way to follow up. And so every week I send out 5 really fun science stories. When possible, it's bat related. It's not always. But that newsletter, I started it a year ago, and it's got this growing following. I do a trivia question every week, and it's been a lot of fun. So,
hey, Dan,
if you like this stuff,
do you have that vid of the bat flapping its wings before we say goodbye? Because that is pretty interesting to look at too.
Yeah, after I finished my PhD, I did a postdoc on how bats fly. And so here's some footage that I recorded. This is a bat with dots painted on its wings, which I painted on there. And it's flying in a wind tunnel. So it's kind of like a treadmill, but with air. And so this bat is flying forwards at about, I think, 5 meters a second or something like that. And the wind is blowing backwards at about 5 meters a second. And so it sort of holds still in front of my high-speed cameras. And what's been so cool about that is that roboticists have taken my data and they've used it to build actual robot bats that can fly. And so now the US Air Force, which sponsored my work when I was doing that stuff at Brown University and before that at Cornell, the Air Force has now built these robots that can basically move like a bat. And it just speaks to the sort of theme of what I was saying, which is that if you look at nature, it's got great examples of how you can do great things. And it's sometimes, like there's no, fighter jets in nature. Like there are some things humans do better, but if you want to build a maneuverable drone, maybe a helicopter with, a bunch of propeller blades going up and down and left and right, maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe you could make something that looks like a bat and it would be able to get through a tighter spot. Maybe it would be more resilient to getting bumped and continuing to fly, which bats do all the time. And so I love the idea that nature has these examples, and whether it's leadership or flying a drone or some other piece, I just love finding those stories in nature and bringing them in my newsletter.
Dan, that's right. Bats can't make something that can kill millions of people all at once. Come on, get with the program, brother.
Right, we're just one at a time. Just one at a time. Well, we did our best with COVID, but that wasn't the bat's fault. That wasn't the bat's fault.
Maybe next time. Dan Riskin, the Bat Whisperer. I really enjoyed that again, and we'll keep in touch. I'd like to.
Yeah, Garry, thanks for having me.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, this is a lot of fun. All the best. Yeah. And thanks, Leslie, as well. Yeah, thank you.
All right. See, you can learn something on this program.
We should set up the giveaway, because I've got kind of a bat themed thing going here. So the hashtag's going to be obligate sanguivore.
Yeah, okay.
No, right. It's going to be hashtag bats. Hashtag bats.
Simply that.
So,
thank you for not mentioning that word, Leslie. I wouldn't have been able to spell it.
Yeah, well, she kids. She mocks.
Holy smokes, what an amazing, interesting guy. And it would be really cool if he came back a lot more often. That would be
I will make that happen, I promise.
So
yeah, because that was just the overview of some of the stuff he does. Is that one of those plastic cockroaches you got from Scott?
Or a termite or something? Yeah, no, it is. It's a plastic cockroach.
Plastic cockroach.
And a bat.
And you got a little Batman there.
Because we got to have bats. But here, are you ready for this? I've been holding on to these for a while, and today seems like the proper day to give these away. I know a lot of guys don't have French cuffs anymore, but look at what I got. I have bat cufflinks.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I'd wear a shirt just to wear those.
Isn't that really awesome?
A cufflink shirt just for that. I love that.
There you go.
Where'd you get that?
Who did that come from? Was that maybe Greg or Stick Save? I'm sorry. Hey, if you're watching and you're the one who provided this, I mean,
that's
holy
great.
Smokes, isn't that awesome? So yeah, a set of bat cufflinks. So I think that's pretty cool. That's not the only cool thing.
No, it's all cool.
No. We got all cool stuff. So let's honor our house band. Oh yes, playing tonight
in Mount Prospect, Illinois.
T-shirt.
Yep.
Thank you. And their compatriots with Bond Journey. So we have koozies and stickers. Our friend Brian has his own line of
X-ray specs.
sunglasses. Yep. Yes.
Yep.
Let's see what else we got. Oh, and a bracelet, of course. Oh, yes. Honoring our dearly departed Matt Cox. We've got some t-shirts that we're giving away in the meantime. And I don't even recall when I said this, but apparently I did at one point. And that is, I like to share things with my sisters, but men ain't one of them. Ever, ever, ever.
Okay.
So there you go. We have standards around here.
Yes.
Snap bracelet. Those are always fun. Oh, golly. Classic. Tracy from Wisconsin. Ball liquor
Ball
mama.
liquors.
Some really cool Velcro things. This one is Jesus saying, I saw that. We have fortune telling fish. We've got our newest edition GarrForce refrigerator magnet. And finally, the prize that started it all.
The condom.
Your very own one.
There it is. All right. Hashtag bats. Put it in the queue, and then Ryan will hit the button in just a few minutes. Let's pay homage to the fine sponsors of the program. What do you say? Hey, Ryan, do you have pictures of the work that this stud guy does? Matt Publikas, his company, the Hale Street Group, does high-end homes in the northern suburbs of Chicago and Fontana and Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. That's Ryan's house there that he put up in Wisconsin. Ryan lives in a mansion.
And it looks like it's decorated for Halloween or something there. I found that and I thought that was, appropriate.
That's some nice work there that Matt does. He does room additions. Look at that.
Very pretty.
Jeez. That's bigger than my first apartment.
Oh All right. My gosh. You could.
HaleStreetGroup.com. That's where you go. He'll work within your budget, does room additions and playhouses and things. And everything is beautiful that he does. All right. Next is David Hochberg. If you need a mortgage for that house, that's the guy. Free consultation if you call those numbers. They're licensed in 43 states. They're headquartered in Illinois, but cover most of the country. David's a good guy. He'll save you money. That's what he does. Buddy Bear Car Wash is all over the Chicago area. If you got goo on your car, get a bear hug on it. Get the goo off and get that vacuum cleaner to suck what's ever underneath the seat that hides like a cockroach.
So I have one story. By the way, somebody was telling me last week, we need more Ryan. Ryan's got his hands full because he's now producing the show. So we don't really get our Wisconsin update the way we love.
We've been running long too. We've had guests on that have gone pretty much the whole hour, and we'll get a Ryan segment back. But you're right. He's been busier than usual because he's got a lot of moving parts, and mostly him moving because his job is driving a lot.
Just a couple hundred miles a day.
I do have a couple pictures Leslie sent if you want to take a peek at those real quick.
Okay, we could do that.
Okay, sure. We talked about this. This is the late mayor of Chicago, Jane Byrne, and you know who that is. That's her successor. That was the next mayor of Chicago. And they decided to get together for a smoke.
I saw a gentleman at an event wearing that T-shirt with just that black and white photo on the front. Is there any doubt that our Bozo the Clown here in Chicago was the inspiration for Krusty the Clown?
Oh, my God. Look at that.
Please. Yeah, that's how that happened. And then the other one goes along with a story I have here. Yeah.
What bar? A bear walks into a bar, and a bear is behind the bar.
So deputies from the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to an ice cream shop in South Lake Tahoe last weekend because of a break-in. What they found was this massive bear behind the counter helping itself to some strawberry ice cream. Luckily, no shots were fired. There was just some gentle encouragement, as they said, to get the bear to leave, which it did. They say the bear did very little damage, requiring only a minor cleanup of the establishment and obviously a new tub of strawberry ice cream to replace that.
That's funny. Well, the good thing is they didn't kill the bear. We hate those stories where a bear does whatever animal in their own habitat. Now, I know an ice cream shop is not a bear's habitat, but God. They don't have to kill everything.
you're a bear, you're walking by, you smell strawberry ice cream.
Hey.
What are you going to do?
You got to have some strawberry ice cream.
So, do we want one more or?
You want to do a story? What do you want to do?
What do we want to do? I can do one more.
One more?
I can. Okay, so Dan was showing that.
Oops. Top of the hour, news, weather, traffic, and sports back in 15.
Dan was showing that picture of that crosswalk in Tokyo. And they do things differently in Japan. There's a new video circulating showing Mount Fuji erupting and blanketing the city of Tokyo in a layer of ash. Pretty scary stuff, but it's not real. It's an AI-generated video produced by the Japanese government to warn residents what to expect if that nearby volcano decides to erupt. There's nothing imminent, they say, going on with Mount Fuji, which sizably erupted some 318 years ago. But officials seem to think an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. They're suggesting it's never too soon for folks in the region to put together a 2-week survival plan should a catastrophic event occur.
I think if you have people in Japan, 3,000 people crossing the street at the same time, I think they can figure it out. That was amazing. It's 3,000 people.
Well, we used to watch those movies of the 50s and, Godzilla and all those things. And essentially the word is run.
Run.
Run. That seems to work. So.
All right. Time for the button.
Sanguivore. I'd like to become a sanguivore.
Sanguivore. All right, Ryan, you want to hit the button? Give away that stuff, that great stuff. All right, here we go. Cool. Hashtag bats. Who's going to win those cup?
I should mention that Mike and Wayne, your prizes will be arriving on Tuesday. David Erickson.
All right, Ryan, tell David what to do.
Send your USPS mailing address either via text or email to 773-888-2157 or Garry Meier Show at GarryMeier.com, and Leslie will get your prize pack sent out to you, and maybe she'll include some bats in there.
Cufflinks for sure.
Please. I mean, we got the Batman, we got the bat links, and we've got a cockroach. That's going to be a fun one. Throw that out there.
All right, that's it. We will be on Monday with a new show. That's Labor Day, but we don't rest like a lot of people do. So we'll talk to you then. Have a wonderful weekend as we, oh God, what happened to August? What happened to summer? All right, I'll stop. 3 in the green. Oh, cannoli first. Here it is. It's delicious and complimentary. Please take it. Schnauzer.
So know that if a vampire bat attaches to your schnauzer, it's only going to take a little blood. It's going to take a while, but it's going to have to lick and lick. It'll get the job done.
Don't run. The vampire bat can run as fast as you.
That's right. Is that the coolest?
Oh, wow. That's great. All right. Thank you, Dan. That was wonderful. Here we go. 3 in the green. Gear is down. Flaps are down. The voice of the globe, America's podcast, the GarrForce has landed.
And that's all the news and nonsense for this week, GarrForce. Thank you for streaming.
If you like that, I got other stuff I think you're going to like. This is the GarrForce.
Please be sure to like and share the show on all of your social networks.
More eyeballs.
If you're not already a subscriber, show your support by subscribing to GarrForce Live YouTube channel. For those watching a replay, that button is right here. All the rest of our episodes, right here.
Boom. Shakalaka.